Welcome to project number 5. So we've talked about several macro and VBA concepts in the previous exercises and projects. Now we're going to create one master procedure here within the Visual Basic Editor that creates a final report utilizing all the rest of the techniques that we've discussed earlier. One button press and we're going to get several things, perhaps several hours of your day, trimmed off into one button press. So take a look. This is how we're going to create the final report within our Visual Basic within Excel. So first off, I've got the example file open in front of you. This is called the quarterly report.xlsx document. Inside of this document, I've opened up the Visual Basic Editor, and in there I've got a few procedures that you're already familiar with from previous exercises. I've got the auto sum procedure, I've got add headers, and I've got format data. 3 procedures that we've created earlier. 2 of them perhaps through the macro recorder, and 1 of them just a regular procedure that we created in the Visual Basic Editor. Now I've got a 4th one that's specific to this project, and it's called final report. And it's got some of the Visual Basic already created for you. But a concept that you should be familiar with by this point, we're going to be talking about a loop once again. Inside of this procedure called final report, I've got a variable called I. It's of integer type. And I've got a simple loop in there. We're going to loop this procedure that we're about to create here that makes calls to our other procedures throughout our workbook, each of our worksheets. Now here's something new that we haven't discussed. How many worksheets do we have in this workbook? Well, we know we got north, east, south, and west, but we've got one called the yearly report. And the yearly report is where we're going to create the one master sheet that's copy data from the other 4 worksheets. So in reality, I don't want to run the loop on that 5th worksheet. I just want to clean up and copy the data from the previous 4. So in order to accommodate to not loop through that 5th one, I'm just subtracting 1 from the worksheet count. So worksheet count would give you 5, but I only want to loop 4 times for the 4 original worksheets. So I'll just subtract 1, some simple math inside there. Nothing more than that. But that's the only thing new that I'm throwing in here with this loop. So now let's take a look at the specific code that we're going to put in here to create this final report. All right, so my first step, I want to make sure that I'm on the appropriate worksheet. So I'm going to go grab that sheet, and I'll use I. Again, our loops, each time it runs, first time it runs, I is equal to 1, so it selects the first worksheet, runs again, it's I is equal to 2, and it grabs the next worksheet, and so on. So now that I'm on that sheet, I want to do 3 things. I want to sum it up, total expense, sum up the total expense column. I want to add my headers, and I want to format the data. Well, I could put all that code right here inside the loop, but that's what these other procedures are for. Auto sum, add headers, format data. So I'm just going to do it right here. I'll say my first one, I'm going to auto sum. I'm going to add the headers, and I'm going to format the data. And I'm done. That's it. I don't have to write any of that code again because we've created separate procedures that will do that stuff for us. And that's just borrowing from what we created earlier in the previous projects. So now here's something new. Once I've summed up the total expenses, I've added the headers, I've formatted the data, I now want to take the data from whatever sheet I'm on, copy it, move to the yearly report worksheet, and paste it in. Now think about this for a moment. I'm on sheet number 1. I've summed it up, I've added the headers, I've formatted the data. Now I've grabbed the data, I'm going to copy it, I'm going to go to the yearly report, I paste it in. Now, the loop takes me to sheet number 2, does the same thing. Auto sum, add the headers, format the data, copy, move to the yearly report. Oh, where do I paste the data in? I want to make sure that when I paste the data in, that I don't wipe something out that's already there. I want to jump down some cells and make sure I'm in an empty spot. Now, there's several techniques that you can use here, but here's one that I like to use. So, first, I'm going to make sure I copy the data And in order for me to be able to copy the data, I need to make sure that I'm in some place within that data. So I'm just going to jump up to A2. I know that I have data there. I'm going to select it. And I'm going to say, let's take the selection object, and I'm going to get into the current region, and I'm going to select it. So this will essentially take us from A2 to the end of the data. It'll now highlight all the data within that block. And then I want to take the selection and I want to copy it. So now I've got that block of data copied onto my clipboard. So now I get to jump to the next worksheet. So in this case, I'm going to go to a very specific worksheet called the yearly report worksheet, and I'm going to select it. All right, now once I'm on that worksheet, I want to paste the data in. But remember, I want to make sure that this is looping. This is going to happen a number of times, and I don't want to paste over the top of something that is already there. So here's the technique that I like to use. What I'm going to do is jump someplace clear down towards the bottom of the worksheet. And I'm going to do this by saying, you know what, I'm going to use the range object. And I'm going to say, you know, let's go to like A 30,000. 1, 2, 3. And I'll select it. So now I know I'm someplace way down towards the bottom where there's no data. I know that, no data there. Now what I'm going to do is, now that I'm clear down towards the bottom, I'm now going to jump back towards the top until Excel finds either one of two things. It finds the top of the worksheet, or it finds data that perhaps I pasted there earlier. So now I'm going to say, let's go selection, end, and I'm going to go XL up and select. So you might recall this from a previous project where we set XL down to be able to find the end of the data. Well, now it's going to take me clear back up until it finds data. Once it's found data, I'm then going to offset a couple of cells. This will give me a nice clean spot to be able to paste my data in. So I jumped to the yearly report worksheet. I found some empty spot, went back to the top. Excel said, oh, I found some data, would stop right there. And then I'm going to offset 2 rows down, and I'm going to paste. And with the paste, I'm going to take the active sheet object and paste. So a few little commands here, nothing huge. It's a loop. The loop is going to run each of our procedures, auto sum, add headers, format the data. But once it's done doing that, we're then going to grab that data, the current region, we're going to select it, we're going to copy it, we're going to go to the other worksheet, make sure that we found an empty spot on there by kind of navigating around and looking for that. But once we did, we'll then paste it in. And that's it. Simple, simple. We're taking something that's going to perhaps take an hour plus of your day, and we're automating it right here through a single button press. Clean up that data, format it, add the auto sum, copy it, paste it, create this report. All right here through a little bit of Visual Basic and some really key concepts. Let's try it out. This is going to be super quick. So I'm going to minimize my Visual Basic editor. I'm on the East Records worksheet. That's great. I'm going to go up to my View tab. I'll go into Macros, View Macros, and let's see, I want to run the final report macro. So with that one selected, I'll hit run, and once again, this is going to be really quick. And I'm done. I've now got my yearly report there, and you see that I've got all my data, perhaps maybe a little bit of cleanup here that I can do just to increase the column widths there. There we go. But all on one worksheet, while the previous worksheets are all nice and formatted. Headers, dollar signs, the total expense summed up there, all done in one button press, and I've got my yearly report, all the data in one spot. Again, saving you a ton of time, automating these simple fundamental steps that you do inside of Excel. Make sure you try out the next lecture and try this project out. Try this exercise. Go through the steps to be able to automate creating this final report.